Yes. Come on. No, hold on. We don't want to look at me. We want.
No, it's my job. I kiss my. Yeah. The editing has been very. I have very strong.
Oh, yes, he does. Really? Oh, you know what they are.
The wording is carefully chosen.
Okay. Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by advertising the annual meeting notice to the official newspapers, providing a copy of the agenda to the newspapers, and posting a copy of the agenda at Borough.
She knew.
No, we're good.
We're
That's
good.
just because I'm muted on here.
Gotcha.
Very good. Thank you. Could I have a roll call, please?
Dwyer,
Here.
Dougherty,
Here.
Herb,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Redding, here, Tomco,
Here.
Branson,
Here.
Kaplan,
Here.
Denblicker,
Here.
Eckel.
Here. Moving on to the oath of office for Vinnie D'Ambrio. Vinnie sends his apologies. He has come down with the stomach flu that is going around, so he will not be getting sworn in tonight. He shall see us next month. Moving on to number 4 on the agenda, the public hearing of the variance application, block 21, lot 523 6th Street.
I am going to recuse
You're
myself.
going to recuse yourself. Very good.
Still Johnson. When we're gonna go, so after that.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's down there. I did it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
I'm sure about it.
Good evening. Good evening.
Mr. DeSapio is here this evening. The first order of business, I believe, would be the completeness determination. Mr. Clerico issued an updated report. And I know that some of those items have been addressed, but I think there's one item that just needed a temporary waiver for signature of plans, but I'll let Ms. Holtz clarify. Okay, so we're all good? Okay. I think the board formally needs to make a motion to deem the application complete then.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Jean. If there's no further discussion, could I have a vote, please?
Dwyer,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Redding,
Yes.
Tomco,
Yes.
Branson,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Denblicker,
Yes.
Eckel.
Yes.
And I have reviewed the proof of service and publication of the notice of hearing and find that the board has jurisdiction to proceed with the hearing this evening. Just need Mr. DeSapio to actually sign a certification and that would be notarized.
If you want to mark this applicant's one and how you do that.
As it's been submitted, we don't really need to have it as an exhibit. Let's go. Thank you.
You're satisfied? Very good. All right,
That for me.
Set for you.
set for you.
Good evening, Gaetano DeSapio. I'm an attorney in Mildred. I'm here on behalf of John and Elizabeth Dougherty, who I want to put an addition on their home at 23 6th Street in Frenchtown. In order to do that, they need some variances as are indicated in our application. Most of those variances are just to confirm existing conditions on the lot size, some existing setback efficiencies. The one thing that is happening, primary thing that's happening is when they put this addition on, they're going to be increasing the impervious coverage beyond what's permitted in the ordinance. And we'll be explaining that. Our planner will be providing you with testimony as to justify, hopefully, you granting a variance. I think that your planner identified one other variance that's required in addition to existing conditions, and we will be asking the board to grant that. So with your consent, I would like to call our first witness, which would be Mrs. Lawrence.
I'll stand, it's easier.
If you please raise your right hand you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I sure do.
Thank you.
You give the board your full name.
Oh, Elizabeth A. Doherty, 23 6th Street, Frenchtown, New Jersey, 08825.
And are you and your husband the applicants tonight?
We are, John and I are the applicants.
And you own the property at 23 6th Street,
We do.
and you've owned it since approximately 1993.
Yes.
And what exists on that property now? What structure? exists?
Oh, so our current home is a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. It has had no additions. It's an original structure.
And what are you proposing to do?
Well, because John and I would like to age in place. You know, we've been part of the community for over 30 years. Our kids were raised here. We want to continue to live here and to think about aging in place. And that means we cannot hike up the very narrow staircase to our second floor, potentially for a bedroom and bathroom. So we'd like to build a addition onto the first floor that also includes a room that's big enough to be a bedroom and a full bath. And again, like many Frenchtown homes, our washer and dryer in the basement. We'd like to bring that up to the first level for ease of washing and drying. And to that end, we're putting on a pantry section onto the front of the house. When you look at our house now, I think with Michael's help, he's created a design that if you were to look at it in 2 years from now, it wouldn't look like anything has happened. We want to keep it in keeping, want to have two additions that are in keeping with the history of the house and the history of our town. So that's what we proposed. Plus, we're only 4 people, but now we're gonna be, let's see, 4 to 8 people for family events, and we need a little more space to have all those people at our house.
And did you employ Mr. Michael Margulies as your architect?
Yes, because he's done other things in town. It made sense to work with someone like Michael to help us create an addition that is again in keeping with all the other homes in Frenchtown and the character of our own home.
And did he prepare a set of drawings which you've seen and have been submitted to the board?
Oh, yes, he has. He's been very patient.
And in fact, that you applied to the zoning officer for a permit to construct the addition, and the zoning officer had to come before this board to get some variances.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Board have any questions?
If the room that you're talking about, would potentially be a bedroom, is that what's labeled on the plans as a conservatory?
Correct.
Very good.
So for right now, there would be like a family space, but then potentially it could be a bedroom.
Just for the record.
But
Call Mr. Martinez.
Does any member of the public have any questions of that witness? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
I
help
do.
you God? Thank you. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
My name is Michael Margulies, last name is Margulies. I'm an architect owning eclectic architecture, very familiar with Frenchtown. Done a lot of houses in the area, a lot of other buildings such as Early Bird, the bookstore. Last time I was here for Piazzi approvals, so I have a long history with Frenchtown.
And for the record, would you indicate your background, training, and experience, and whether you have any licenses issued by the state of New Jersey?
Sure, yeah, I'm obviously a degree, a professional degree in architecture, licensed in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Texas, a couple of other things. But anyway, so yes, and as I said, I have a long experience in Frenchtown. I do mostly historic preservation, historically sensitive, things that are adaptive reuses and all custom work typically.
Okay, would you describe for the board what John and Elizabeth want to
Just
do?
before you do that, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey and your
Oh, yeah.
license is in good standing?
Correct.
Does any member of the board have any questions as to this gentleman's qualification?
No.
Then he can be accepted as same.
Would you describe for the board what John and Elizabeth want to do, and their objectives and how you incorporated that into post plans to addition for us.
Yes, and sort of in keeping with what Liz was talking about, so basically they wanted an addition for better use of the house. The house is the original house, it's very small, as I said, it has a single bathroom. There's no bathroom now on the first floor, there's no laundry room on the floor. And so what we did is we went out of the back of the house for a room, including a bathroom and a laundry area to give them space there, and then a little area between where the kitchen is and a little area in the front, the southeast of the house. We're putting a pantry in there so they have more space from the kitchen and just slightly rearranging the kitchen so they have better use in the kitchen. As she said, it's mostly the primary goal was for aging in place, just because the house as it was not conducive to getting up and down flights of stairs in the future. Even right now with her injury, very difficult for her to get into the house, so. And the concept of this also with the plan was we designed a house that essentially with removing the impervious surface was a zero net gain. So the architecture itself did not increase the impervious surface when we took away what it was replacing. The increased impervious surface that is proposed on the drawings is all of the adding pathways, walkways and use in the backyard, especially some of them to allow for a ramp in the future to get up into the house.
Now, what the impervious surface that was taken away presently is what?
It was patio and walkways in the vicinity of where the rear addition is proposed.
And Elizabeth testified that the appearance of the house after this addition will be essentially the same as that your statement.
I believe so. I try to do most of my work historically sensitive, especially in this area.
Now, in connection with the application tonight, did you examine the Frenchtown zoning board to determine what variances might be needed for this addition?
I did, and we had an initial just talk through with the zoning officer when we were doing the problem as well.
Can you review them for the board?
Sure, we knew because of the non-conforming lot, we were already over impervious surface, but as I said, that's where we were kind of trying to flip the architectural part with the existing impervious surface, and then the rest of it was for the use of the backyard and the pathways of the house. And then in addition, we had talked about the variances required for setbacks, although there was a question on that because of the non-conforming lot. Some of the variances weren't necessarily needed, but we went ahead for them anyway when we went to the hearing. And I believe the planner had said that she confirmed that the variance, at least for the side yard setbacks, were conforming because it's 5 foot rather than the actual 10 foot.
There is a question, right, about the proposed heat pump, whether that's closer than 5 foot to the.
Correct, yes, that is, and that did not make it in. So as mentioned previously, we were hoping to add that in because that was an oversight. We did not include that in these variants, although we were going for a side yard setback variance in it. It wasn't specifically noted that these were included in there, but we're proposing that these are included in that side yard setback.
So the applicants need confirmation of existing non-conformities in the variance, right? And they need the side yard setback for the heat pumps and a variance for increasing the impervious coverage.
Correct.
Now, how would you describe the increase in impervious coverage? You describe it in terms of whether it's significant, insignificant. How would you describe it?
Well, I would say the increase is, of course, significant on any lot. It's a non-conforming lot. So I think relative to the size of other places in the borough of Frenchtown, it is not necessarily a significant increase in square footage, but it is significant to the lot, obviously, as per the ordinance. So, and that is sort of why we were trying to offset the architecture with the existing impervious coverage, and then only trying to allow impervious coverage back into the project proposed that would be pretty much used for the backyard and access into the house.
Are there any components of the design that are intended to deal with drainage that the applicant is proposing?
They are proposing rain barrels to go on there as just sort of a stopgap to hold water in downspouts. That is one of the things that they're proposing.
there anything else you would like to call to the attention to the board about the proposal?
No, I think that's pretty much, everything. I think it's pretty straightforward. Answer questions.
So you described rain barrels as stopgap, is that, because they need to be maintained?
They would be, that isn't something that's always
When someone's got in,
remediation, exactly, they will just fill up, so. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we were going into this, as I said, just trying to offset the impervious surface that was there with the addition, and then the rest was the walkway, so the rain barrels were something that the clients decided to put in as like an extra measure above and beyond.
Is there a primary motivation for designing walkways the way that they're designed?
It's because the length of a ramp, so as you can tell, even getting into here, ramps are quite long, so the reason the path goes from the front sidewalk, there is no path complete right now, so we're adding a little bit more of that path in. So that you can get to the back, and then the place where the ramp would come, basically it's the length of a ramp is what the length of the walkway is to the backyard. So you would eventually, when the age in place requires a ramp, they can just put the ramp over the impervious surface, and they will not have to increase impervious surface at that time.
So with the, excuse me, so the ramp would go back pretty much to the proposed 12 by 18 stone patio.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Excuse me, in my report, I raised that question, or asked that some of the sidewalks in the back of the house be dimensioned.
Yeah.
Because when I was scaling from the plan, I was coming up with different numbers.
Yes. And I think in your letter, you referenced the 414 square footage for walkways, but what wasn't included was the extra 252, I think, or something, whatever it was for other paths. So the numbers came out to about the same when you added the two together.
I only raised the question because you're asking for a variance, so
Right.
make sure you're asking for the right variance. That's what
Correct.
And then I've asked, put some dimensions on the plan, so we can confirm.
Sure.
Do we know what that number really is?
Yes, it is correct on the table here. So I had it as.
On which table where? We're not sure which table you're looking at.
It is the table that is referenced as zoning. So it's in zoning notes. And at the bottom of zoning notes, it has an entire breakdown of what all the impervious surface is. So then Bob was referring to walkways and parking. And he referenced 414 in the letter. So it's actually 414 plus 252 for porches and decks also being added. So I had it coming out as like 660, and I think you said scaling it was like 750 or something.
Something about that,
Yeah, but we can dimension it. and
Yeah, just
show what-
clarify it on that. Like I said, it is a variance,
Yes,
so
but the two.
make
are
sure
very
you're asking
close.
for the right thing you need.
Correct.
And I apologize again because I'm looking at the zoning notes and I'm not seeing the number 616 anywhere. So if you could walk us through that
Oh,
a little
yes.
bit, that would really make my life
Yeah,
happier.
so the bottom of the zoning notes, it says impervious coverage where it's underlined.
Yes.
Under that, it has what's existing. So that lists everything that's there now. And then it says remove, and that shows you what we're removing. So we're removing 381 square feet of porches, decks, and patios, and 68 feet of walkways. And then when we go to add in, we're adding 450 feet of dwelling, 252 feet proposed for porches, decks, and patios, and then 414 for walkways and parking. So that
Yes.
comes to a total of 1,106 feet. So that.
There we go.
Yeah, what I was talking about.
Thank you.
Was the 252 plus 214 came to 666.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, you made a comment about the ramp being added, and they won't have to add impervious surface, so we just removed an accessibility ramp that was pervious. I don't understand why imperviousness is a given for an accessibility ramp.
I don't think it necessarily is. It could be a steel ramp as well. So, but this is something they wanted to do now, just in case for.
You want to plan for the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
If the impervious is 666, what's the percentage? Do we know what that is?
Yes, it goes from 38.5, which it is now, and it goes up about 9.9%, so. 10% to 48.5, what's this on?
88.5.
There, it's at the very bottom.
Yep,
48.5?
48.5.
Any other member of the board have any questions of this witness?
I'm gonna ask one other question, I think, just for the record, the surface of the proposed walkway and the stone patio, these are all, the stone patio, I assume, is gonna be large flagstones or something like that. Not, we're not talking gravel.
We're not talking, no,
Okay.
it just hasn't been decided exactly
Okay.
what the material will be.
Alright.
But it will not be gravel.
And despite the fact that that might be considered a little bit more pervious, I know it's still considered impervious coverage, a little bit more pervious. An argument for that would be, ease of walking from an aging in place point of view, because it's gonna be easier to maneuver on a hard surface
Correct.
than a gravel surface. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Part of these,
Oh, we still have other questions.
So yes.
If I might, if
Of
the board members are done. Mr. Margulies, I had in my letter, I found two discrepancies. They don't affect your variances. Items 7 and 8, there was a discrepancy on the lot area. I'm assuming that if the application is approved, you would have no issue.
Correct.
Makes
That
sense.
is actually noticed, that's noted also in the bottom of zoning notes. At the very bottom, it talks about the lot net area is actually 6690 and all the calculations were based on that. So that's on there underneath the zoning notes.
Right, the zoning notes talk about the lot area being 6,720 square feet.
Oh, yes, that was a typo.
Mhm.
We will change that.
Yes.
And it's 6690 as noted at the bottom.
Excellent. And then I don't know if you had a chance, we limit the percent of the rear yard that can be impervious. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that calculation and make sure that you're meeting the 20% or less than the 20%.
I did not, but we can do that.
Okay. So I guess it's the applicant's goal to comply with that, so you won't see the variance.
Exactly.
Understood.
Yes.
And then, there's 2 trees in the rear yard. I'm sure in your discussions with the homeowners, you've talked about the addition and the proximity to those 2 trees.
Yeah.
Based on your experience, are either one of those trees going to be disturbed or need to be removed?
I think the closer, the smaller tree by the addition would be removed. And I'm not really sure, do you? I'll throw that around there's a small tree.
The small tree is the dogwood and the larger one is the black walnut tree.
Yeah, I think the dogwood would be removed, it's closer to that.
Is it, and maybe this is a question for Liz, Elizabeth. Is it also the intention to remove the black walnut? I realize that a black walnut tree is not necessarily the most ideal tree to have in a small backyard.
We going to have that trimmed
Very good,
because it's giant
yes.
and it's sort of on not our property, but it does Don and Doris next door. So
Okay.
we work on that together.
So the walnut will stay.
And then the plans talk about a sound enclosure around the heat pumps. Do you have any idea about the height of that? Or has that not really been?
It has not been defined.
Okay.
And that's something we can submit to you as soon as it's defined, if people want to take a look at that, but that has not been defined yet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't. I don't know, something that would be potentially obnoxious to the neighbors. I understand the desire to make it, to try to alleviate the sound.
Right.
And I appreciate that. There's all different types of sound involved.
Right.
I have no problem with that being a condition of approval.
It did look like Liz Doherty had something to say on that
Oh, I'm
subject.
sorry.
So, been looking into those. There's lots of things that would coordinate with our house in a nice way that I think would fit. They're not huge and they're not obnoxious like, yeah. they're
Like
not
some.
obnoxious. And we're, Doris and John know we're doing this and it has to be on their side of the property. And we're trying to be thoughtful about mitigating the noise because it does have some noise associated with it. It's not as noisy as some air conditioners.
Which is a good segue to my question. if I may.
Sure.
Is it common to get input from the neighbors when you're requesting a side, like setback variance? Has anybody done that?
I think,
Well, they were
Well,
noticed for the meeting.
What's that?
They were noticed for the meeting.
yes,
Okay, but they don't have to get anything from them prior, like a letter of
they don't
acceptance
need to, but
or?
we do, so,
Okay.
They could show up tonight.
yes.
That's the normal process, is that they are noticed that there's a meeting and a neighbor within 200 feet is requesting a variance, and then it's their option to come in.
Are they told what the variance is and what?
Yeah, the notice of hearing sets forth all of the variances, and it also identified, and Mr. DeSapio did the appropriate practice, which is to indicate that there may be other variances that might come up at the time of the public hearing, and that they're gonna be requesting those too. So it's incumbent upon anybody who gets that notice to either come to the municipal building and look at the plans, or come to the meeting and find out. But the applicant's under no obligation to reach out to a neighbor and seek their approval or sign off of a variance.
Yeah, if we're like, we could recall, Elizabeth, and she could talk about the fact that she spoke to the neighbor about the sign, about the, heat pump. We want that in for everybody.
She already did.
Okay.
And we've spoken with the neighbors on the other side as well, or the neighbors. I did the work on their house as well, so.
Yeah, small towns.
Yeah.
Can I just get clarity on one thing, because I didn't hear the whole conversation, and I apologize. About the question about the impervious coverage not exceeding more than 20% of the rear yard, is that that's what you indicated?
Yes, so we have a provision in the code that limits property owners from covering more than 20% of their rear yard with impervious structures. And so I just want to make sure that you were able to comply with that because of the new pathways. Your planner is telling me you might not be able to.
Well, that's what I want to get clarity on. We're gonna calculate that.
We will,
But
yes.
if it exceeds the 20%.
We will.
But we're proposing that if the board grant approval for a variance where it exists in place, right?
Yes, close. Yes,
Do you have a rough estimate what it is?
it must be close to that if it's not right at that.
80 square. And
How much is that?
I don't know, because I don't know the size of the backyard. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
So like an 8 by 10 square.
another witness, man.
So why don't we defer that conversation to your planner?
Right.
There we go.
Thank you. That's all I had.
All right. Does the board have any other questions?
Any member of the public have any questions of this witness? Well, Mr. DeSapio may proceed forward with your next witness.
Thank you.
Here, 1 second. Oh, it's not working. Don't find her yet.
Okay.
Just fix the problem.
Don't let the planner add.
He fixed himself.
Mr.
John.
Tykina, will you raise your right hand?
Certainly, Mr. Grunberg.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be a truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Hi,
Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
John Tykina, T as in Thomas, A-I, K as in Kelly, I, N as in Nicholas, A. I'm a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey and have been since I completed my studies at Rutgers University in 1993. I spent the last 32 years of my career doing this, testifying before planning and zoning boards around the state and across the country on behalf of applicants, just like the Dohertys. That was my biggest question when I was doing this. It's like Doherty or Doherty? Because I went to high school with a Pat Doherty and a Lori Doherty. You had to make sure you got it right. So it's Doherty. Anyway, and I've been doing it around the state for more than 30 years. I testified before more than 204 boards. Oh, yes, I was just forced to count them. Across the state, the ones locally, I was just in Milford, I was in Flemington, East Amwell, Raritan, for some of my locals. And, my license is 5298, in the state of New Jersey. It is current and in good standing.
Any member of the board have any questions as to this gentleman's qualifications to give professional planning testimony?
No.
No, I think we can accept him as a professional.
Thank you.
And have you had an opportunity to review the proposed addition to the house and the drawings for this lot and the borough's ordinances and the required variances and prepared to testify about them?
I've reviewed the plans, I've reviewed the application, I've reviewed the ordinance, the master plan, the master plan examination, and all the professional reports, and I learned how to do math.
Well, do we want to start with that so that we?
Sure, let me knock that one out. And I told you if I had to say anything more than ladies DeNova and John Tankina, I'm not doing my job, so I'm not gonna do my job. So the question was, what percentage of the rear yard? So the rear yard is 95 feet long by 40 feet wide. So to make the math simple for us, it's about 100 by 40 or 4,000 square feet. So 20% of 4,000 square feet would be 800 square feet. And dumb planner thought 20% of 4,000 was 400 square feet. So that's where I ran afoul. The garage is 264 square feet. The patio is 216 square feet. So that's about 480 square feet. We don't even have another 50 linear feet of walkway at 3 feet wide, which would be another 150, which only takes us up to about 630. That keeps us well under the 800 square feet for the rear yard impervious.
So no variance is required in connection with that provision of the ordinance.
Yes, please ask questions, interrupt all of you want.
If I'm reading this right, which I could be not reading it right, the 95 feet that you mentioned includes the gravel parking area?
Yes, includes the gravel parking area, does not include the alley.
Okay,
The what?
The alley.
Okay.
So then we'd have to measure the gravel parking area as impervious as also. And add that in as impervious.
Okay.
I believe that's Ted's point, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, we should still be under the 800 with that, even with that, because it's,
We have an estimate of how large the gravel parking area would be?
I'm gonna estimate.
920 by.
Yeah.
20 by 40. That's 9.
No, it's roughly 20 by 20 plus. Maybe it's 9 by 20, so.
You're right.
10 by
Yeah,
12, this
that's
is 10,
9.
10 by, 10 by 10. And it's by 25. We're creeping up though, we're getting close to the.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Would you relate that directly to the board if you analysis?
Yes, so my rough analysis, the gravel parking area is approximately 20 by 20 on the side and then 10 by 10 in front of the garage. So that would be 400, almost a little over 400 square, right? 20 by 20, 400.
Yeah, we're up over 1,000 with all the numbers you've come up with. Plus, I don't think we've accounted for the proposed walkway future ramp between the stone patio and
Correct.
conservatory.
Just be the 8 by whatever that dimension is, 20.
I fear we're gonna need some more precise numbers on this.
Agreed, well. Sure, not going to be reviewed tonight.
Well, in any event, we'll get precise numbers, but in any event, we appear from the estimate that it's over the 800 square feet. So we would amend our application, request a variance for that. I don't think it's gonna be, the estimate would indicate it's not going to be tremendously over, but it will be over for some percent.
I think that makes sense to amend
Good,
the
yeah.
application.
Agreed.
Darla, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, would you outline for the board the other variances that you are aware of and provide testimony as to why the applicant should be granted those variances?
Certainly, so we are going to continue our existing conditions, with an undersized lot. 6,690 square feet, where 15,000 is required, where we have insufficient lot width at 40 feet wide, where 100 feet is required in the R2 district. We have existing impervious coverage at 37.5%, which exceeds 25% required. And that is one of our proposed variances as well, going up to 48.5%. We have an existing side yard of 4.6 feet on one side, and we are proposing to retain that 4.6 feet. The balance of our additions, et cetera, are all 5 feet or more, so they all comply with the ordinance requirements. And there's no other side yard required for the principal structure. The final accessory structure variances, one, the existing garage is less than 5 feet. And then we are proposing the heat pump changers to be located in the side yard. And they would be approximately 1 foot from the side yard.
Is there a particular reason you're aware of that they have been proposed for that location? Is there another facility? Is there another facility there that they relate to or that will be needed for their operation?
Yes, the existing propane tank is located in that area with the existing HVAC equipment located in the crawl space, and accordingly, it's most efficient to be able to group them together and limit your runs of your utility returns, et cetera, to try and operate more efficiently, especially when using the heat pumps and some of these more clean, if you will, technologies as opposed to the straight gas fired thing. It's better to have your returns closer, et cetera, so you're not losing as much energy when the transfer.
Question as
Yes.
to the heat pumps.
Mhm.
They're gonna be on a concrete pad,
Yes,
and is the pad itself gonna be 1 feet from the property line? And then you're having a sound enclosure around it? How are you gonna ensure that the concrete pad and the sound enclosure is within your property line?
well, we will certainly ensure that we are within our property line without question. There's an existing fence there, so it kind of gives you kind of a hard stop that is on the property boundary. And again, we will make sure that we restrain ourselves and make it stand on our own property. Our neighbors like us, but they don't like us that much. Okay, so all these variances I would submit to you are all C1 variances that are related to this particular piece of property. As you know, C1 variance is one that is related to a property that is exceptionally narrow. Click, we need that one. Or contains unique circumstances that relate to the physical conditions of this lot. And again, our existing conditions, the size and shape of the property being 40 feet wide and 168 feet long, does present some challenges, particularly when you're trying to connect it with structures and that are handicap accessible, that are going to allow for the aging in place, et cetera. It's the blessing and the curse of having a long, deep backyard. It's, you know, it's 95 feet from the rear of the house to get to the back lot. But doing that just with a 3-foot walkway, you create 200+ feet of impervious surface, et cetera. So all those things compound themselves together. I'll talk a little bit about, you'll hear me talk about case law a little bit. And I like to use case law because it's there are decisions that have been supported by the courts. And I find that when we kind of reference them, that they provide the board with kind of a good roadmap to a good decision. And that's why I reference them. The one that's really on point here is one that's called Caldwell v. Zoning Board of Adjustment. It's Lang v. Zoning Board of Adjustment, and that is from Caldwell up in Essex County. And it's a case that actually is right on point. It was a narrow lot. And they were trying to fit in a pool, actually a pool, between an existing driveway and existing garage, et cetera. And what the court found is that an applicant, even though you're on an odd shaped lot or a narrow lot, whatever the case may be, an applicant is still entitled to, and it's right for an applicant to have improvements that are of the appropriate size, shape, and dimension for the utility. So in this instance, it's appropriate for us to have walkways that are 3 feet wide, to have handicap walkways, or handicap ramp, et cetera, to be able to have those appropriate dimensions to be long enough so that we meet those dimensions, to make sure that that ramp is safe and efficient for someone to actually be able to use it. There's nothing worse than having someone who has somewhat of a disability and they're met with a challenge on a ramp or something that's supposed to accommodate them. And they can't do it because it's not right, it doesn't have the rest, or the case may be, it's not long enough, it's too steep, et cetera. So we want to make sure that you get those things going. And again, Lang, the zoning board of adjustment was a case where the court talked about that these improvements can be of appropriate size, shape, and dimension for the utility. And that's a decision that can be supported. So in terms of your findings, there's kind of 4 general findings we'll be looking for the board to make. One is that we relate to a specific piece of property. 2 is that we advance the purposes of zoning. 3 is that because we're seeking a C1 variance, that because of the exceptional narrowness of the lot and because of the physical conditions and constraints that exist on the lot they're in, that the relief is warranted. And then always that we meet our negative criteria, with all your relief, negative criteria. First and foremost, we don't have a substantial detriment to public good, neighbors. And then finally, we don't have a substantial impairment to your zone plan or your master plan. So in this instance, we are talking about 23 6th Street, no other property. Granting relief here on this property doesn't convey any precedence to any other property. Everybody has to make their own deal. Everybody has to make their own case. You could grant 27 narrow lot variances and the 28 doesn't have to be granted if that case isn't met. In terms of advancing the purposes of zoning, I submit to you that there are specifically 2. To promote a desirable visual environment through good civic design and arrangement. And M, to encourage the coordination of the various public and private procedures affecting land development with a view towards lessening the cost of such development and to the more efficient use of land. So here, I think that Michael's really done a wonderful job working with the Dohertys in terms of designing a project that, even though it needs relief, really is going to be very attractive. It's going to blend into the neighborhood and look like it's been there, for 100 years. It's something that is going to blend in very well. When we really look at his plans, specifically elevations, you see that the way the additions have been done is quite tasteful and appropriate. They're not too big, they stick out, and they kind of look like they're either there or they organically grew. Because if you think about Frenchtown, most of your homes have organically grown over time. They're not typically aren't the originals that existed.
Are you making a C2 argument if you're talking about advancing the purposes of zoning?
I guess so.
Asking you. You said C1, but then you start talking about the purposes I and M.
And M, I always feel you have to advance the purposes of zoning, but I agree that for the C1 variance, the finding of the hardship is sufficient.
So we're just going on C1?
Just going on C1, yes. So again, I spoke about how the narrowness of the property kind of lends in and makes it stretch out into the rear yard. And the nature of the improvements in terms of the accessible walkways, et cetera, requirement to be of a certain width and a certain length to make sure that we hit the right dimensions in each of those instances. In terms of additional unique conditions, having the HVAC on that side yard, we think that's the most efficient location to put it there, so that it is the minimal run to be able to access the existing facilities in the house, close to the existing utilities, et cetera. We think that it's appropriate, and we can make sure that it's appropriate screening that we don't have a negative impact on our neighbors. That does allow me to jump to the negative criteria. Again, there's no detriment here. This is a single family house. It's not a noxious use. We're not gonna have any increases in traffic or any environmental impacts. We're providing some measure to mitigate our impervious coverage overage by providing for the rain barrels, providing for some attenuation of our stormwater. To make sure that we're kind of slowing it down, we can trickle it out into our property or use it on the property, whatever the case may be. As we utilize those rain barrels to be able to slow it down, that it's not running all over the place. The other thing that happens from an impervious standpoint, and this is specific to this property and how the improvements are, we are proposing a walkway that runs from the front all the way to the back. So, at being over 150 feet long, it gives us 150 feet of length to dissipate that stormwater along the length. So we don't have a huge concentrated location where we're gonna have forced stormwater and it's gonna, all come flowing out at one point. It's being, discharged off the sides of the walkway along that entire length, and allows us to mitigate it by draining it into the landscape, et cetera, and making sure that, again, we're not concentrated in the point. We're not gonna provide, have any impacts on our neighbors by really concentrating flow and creating erosion of those things. Again, the nature of the improvements being kind of long and narrow like our lot, it gives us a long length to be able to dissipate our, any of our stormwater impact. And then in terms of the zone plan, the R2, again, specifically for one family and two family homes, we're going to continue to be a one family home. We're not going to impair the zone plan. We recognize that we require a percentage, a big percentage jump, comparatively, almost 11%, 10% from up to 48.5. But again, in terms of overall square feet, it's just not that much. It's 600 square feet. It's just not that big an area. It's the percentage is jumped because our lot is small. The R2 district was drawn recognizing that this lot existed in the middle of it. But the town fathers and others decided that it should be R2, and they provided that even though this small lot that exists within it. So again, they recognize, they acknowledge that it's there. Again, we're not gonna blow up the R2 zone because we have an additional 10% for impervious coverage here. So again, that's a standard. There's no substantial impairment to that zone plan. It's not that there's no impact or anything else, that it's not a substantial impairment. And I don't believe that we are rising to that level. So the two favorite words to hear from every planner is, so in closing, that I believe you have the ability to make the requisite findings, that it is related to this specific piece of property, that we are entitled to a hardship relief C1 due to the narrowness and the specific features on this lot. And that we are not gonna have any, that we satisfy our negative criteria. We're not gonna have a substantial detriment to our neighbors or the public good, and we're not gonna substantially impair the zone plan and the master plan for the reasons that I talked about due to the specific improvements that were proposed here. And I'm available for your questions.
Any member of the board have any questions?
I do actually. I was wondering if you could speak to one thing that I did not hear, but I will give the opportunity to fill this one in. One could argue that it is unnecessary to have a walkway going from the front of the property all the way to the back of the property, but I imagine the planner could argue where that would be of a particular benefit to a property to have a walkway that was accessed both the front walkway and went all the way to the back of the property where the parking was. And I believe the memo that we saw made some mention about parking. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
That is correct. In that our parking is located in the rear, it would be appropriate to have an accessible route, especially as the doctors have talked about being able to age in place. Have an accessible route from where the parking is going to be in the rear on the alley, to have that to then be able to access the home. That again, it's a unique situation for this lot. If we weren't in an alley condition, which thank goodness we are, it's kind of the charm of Frenchtown, wouldn't necessarily be needed to be able to get all the way to the front and the back. But in this instance, you want to get out to the front because the front's the street, our most important public space. But in this instance, on this property, we have alley parking in the rear and that access. So that type of connection is appropriate and actually very appropriate here in Frenchtown.
Because you also have parking on the street in front of the house,
We do, but we expect that would be for our guests and visitors and.
which happened.
That are, which happened, and well, we're gonna have family coming, so it's delightful. But yeah, it's appropriate that in this instance, to be able to get from the front to the back for those reasons.
And again, a hard walkway as opposed to a gravel walkway because of the ease of movement.
That is correct, and I'm not as young as I used to be, but just living with my parents and my in-laws, how we're doing with their mobility, and my father, rest in peace, was an amputee, so. There was no time that he was more discouraged than when he ran into something that he couldn't traverse by himself.
Mhm.
Because of how it was constructed and designed. That was the only time, all the time, he was an amputee for 11 years. And all the time is the only time when I saw him get discouraged. When he hit a point where he just couldn't overcome that step. Because his chair couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then to watch an amputee get out of his chair, climb up the step, pick his chair up and slam it down on the one and get back into his chair and go. You only had to watch it once.
Sounds like you watched several times.
More than that, yes. I was just in Monmouth County, their new courthouse. Is because I was thinking about walking in here. Their new courthouse, the entire entry. Where everybody goes in is accessible. So yes, it's gotta be 30 feet wide, and yes, it's gotta be 75 feet long. But the whole thing where everybody walks is all the same. And you all go up the same ramp and into the same front doors. There's no take it around the back for the guy in the chair. And it's the best design I've seen.
I also have one other,
Oh,
very,
please, I'm sorry. I got-
very minor question, which I'm not sure is a planning question per se, but we sort of, when we were talking trees earlier, we talked about the dogwood and the walnut. On the one side of the property, but there's also a dogwood on the, east side of the property, which is clearly going to have to go because I think there's a patio there or something there. So that one's gonna have to go. So I think we're gonna have to make sure that, maybe as a condition, make sure that we capture the fact that we have a tree replacement ordinance and that that's going to have to be, dealt with accordingly. I kind of missed the third tree.
Absolutely, all permits included.
Those are all the questions that I had. Does anyone else have any questions?
Any member of the public have any questions of this witness? Mr. DeSapio, do you have any other witnesses?
No, we don't,
Do you wish to give a closing argument?
just very briefly.
Thank you.
I thank you for your attention. I hope that this is not too complicated, although we have to do the technical requirements of the law. I think we have. Obviously, John and Elizabeth want to put this addition on for a very good reason, which I think you can understand for themselves and for anybody and for people in the future. And it's being done faithfully, it's done with an effort to minimize the extent of variances needed, and also to deal with the impervious coverage situation to the extent that we can. And I believe that the planner has given you enough information so determine that the applicant has met the positive and negative criteria of the statute. And that we hope that you will, after giving this due consideration, will grant them the variances that they need in order to proceed with the addition. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I forgot, does any member of the public wish to present any testimony or evidence before the board at this time? Unless the board members have any questions of Mr. DeSapio or his witnesses, it'd be appropriate to entertain a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments? Can I go vote, please?
Wire,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Tom Kelly,
Yes.
Branson,
Yes.
Captain,
Yes.
Schlumberger,
Yes.
Eckel.
Yes.
The applicant has presented an application for C variance relief under a C1 analysis. They have the burden of establishing a hardship clause to the unique features of the property. And that the variances can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. I'm not going to repeat the variances that have been requested unless you want me to. Conditions that I've written down that have been discussed are that the 2 trees in the rear yard dogwoods will be removed, but the black walnut is to remain. And there will be requirement of complying with the tree replacement ordinance as appropriate. That the form of the enclosure of the heat pumps will be submitted to the board professionals to their satisfaction. The formal calculation of the impervious coverage will be calculated and provided to the board professionals. And then new variants will be included for the increasing the rear yard impervious coverage by 20% if it goes over that amount quantified. Together with the standard conditions that we employ and any others that you might have. If you think that the applicant has established their burden of proof, it would be appropriate to entertain a motion to grant the variances subject to those conditions and any others. If you don't think that they met their burden of proof, it'd be a motion to deny.
I'll make the motion to approve the variances subject to those conditions that you outlined.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second from John. Are there any further questions or comments or additions? Yes, Dave.
One other thing was the rain barrels, but I think they're on the plans.
They are on the plan.
I don't know, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this one, because I do think. So I guess, please help guide me through this. So I do think that there is clearly a hardship. This is a very strangely shaped thing. And judging whether this is a public detriment kind of depends on understanding the impact of the increased impervious coverage to me. I mean, like, there's the heat pumps and stuff. I think that's totally reasonable. But the increased impervious coverage, so we've done other, granted other similar variances, but I think that they were mostly increasing the impervious coverage to about 38% is my memory. This is increasing it to almost double what we allow. And it's not.
What's that increasing it to double what we allowed? They were already at
Right.
30,
8.5.
Yes,
38.5.
But we allow 25.
Yeah, yeah, but, yes.
Almost 50,
Yeah.
so. And I don't know that the argument that although the percentage sounds bad, the actual square footage amount doesn't really work for me, because if we are being consistent, which I think we are supposed to be at least somewhat consistent, and we allow a similar percentage across the board, we are, I don't know how to put this in words exactly, but the thing that seems to matter to me is how much of the ground of Frenchtown is covered by impervious surface when it comes to how much water is going to be flowing off, not the specific number of square feet. And I think that's probably why the ordinance was written as it was, because it's the percentage that matters, not, we didn't set a square footage limit, we set percentage limit. And at the same time, looking at this, I do see that they've made almost every effort to minimize how much, and I don't, like, you know, I'm tempted to say, well, they could get rid of the patio, but we do want people who are aging in place to have good outdoor space on their property that they can enjoy. So I guess I'm just struggling. If anyone else has like, can explain to me how they're making this, that might be helpful. Is that an appropriate thing for me to ask for, or?
Well, I'm gonna make an argument. I may actually have our planner weigh in on it, but I will tell you that when I saw the numbers, I was prepared to be fussy about impervious coverage. I really was. But I think the argument that this property provides a unique, not unique, a definite hardship. They have parking in the back, they have parking in the front. The property is incredibly long and skinny. Aging in place. I'm not there yet, but when I broke my leg, I can tell you trying to get across gravel or trying to get across a lawn using a walker, thank you very much, was not very much fun. You need to have some way to get from one end to the property to the other end of the property. Otherwise you wind up being trapped, and that is not friendly to aging in place. I think they made very good arguments. The fact that if the property was squarer, then the walkway to the back would be a lot shorter, so their impervious coverage would be a lot smaller, but it's not square. And variances, we do try to be consistent, but this is a variance. They're asking for a variance because it is an unusually shaped property. And that is the point of a variance. The point of a hardship variance is that we were granting it not just because they have a big piece of property and suddenly they want to have 50% impervious coverage. They have a very odd shaped property and they're trying to provide access to the property. Did I cover that? I'm looking at the planner. Did I cover that argument reasonably well?
Did, and I think the bigger picture, and this is not the first applicant that we've had where we've got alleys in the back, street in the front. I think we have to take a hard look in the future at the R2 zone. Because I don't think our bulk standards are really mirroring what is on the ground.
I agree.
Because many of the lots in that zone, if we really did an analysis, don't meet the minimum lot size. And then if we based everything off that minimum lot size, and even if half the lots can't meet it, well, we're setting all those people up for a variance situation when they want to do any modest addition. And so I think, longer term, when we have spare time, I do think that we should look at that. Because when people want to make modest additions, this is a costly process.
And just to add to Randy's comments, I guess, Ted, I was thinking the same issues. I think for me, put the aging in place aside, because they could sell the house and someone else is there who's 25 years old. For me, it really sort of rests on the on the dimensions of the lot and the unusualness of this and the almost impossibility of doing anything there that is in keeping with the character of the downtown.
I get where you're coming from, Ted, and I'm keen to agree with you. Because you look at, we've all seen the town map, but we look at even like the little mini sectional that they include here, where you can see the other lots. There are many lots, thank you. There are many lots that are as narrow, looks like there are a few that are narrower than this lot, so if the issue is about the percentage, but we don't want to seem like we're setting precedent that just because we approve it for this lot, we won't approve for that, but at a certain point, we get to a level, and like you were saying, where we have to evaluate this carefully because many of the properties may be too small, they may already be, or if they ever need any sort of variance, it's gonna be for this issue. Or this issue is gonna come up again and again with these very small, very narrow properties. So is it just gonna be a first come, first serve? Are we gonna, approve them until like, oh, we've really put ourselves in a hard spot in this R2 zone about impervious surfaces and, water drainage and stormwater management. That's the concern that I have. I totally get that the small size and the narrow dimension of this promotes a challenge. And if you want to age in place, these are the kind of modifications to a home that are necessary. But it's a balancing act, and as we continue on for the coming years and we get similar applications, do we eventually get to a point where we've tipped the scales to where we then start having stormwater problems because of, every property is now at almost 50% impervious surfaces. Just where my mind is on that issue. So, it's a long-term concern, but I certainly think one worth addressing.
I think I would urge everyone, we've talked a lot about age-friendly issues in the last year or so because we have a grant. But I want us to be cautious about connecting this decision to that issue because we don't have anything on the books with regard to that. And so I think we should look at this based on the merits of our existing rules and ordinances in terms of the unusual size of the lot. Because if not, I feel like it comes across as arbitrary and capricious. I think the other thing, Ted, that I would suggest is, I think I totally agree with you in terms of the issue about what this sort of resonates with is, how much impervious surface are we putting in Frenchtown? And maybe that's a sort of, Darlene's raising a broader issue. Maybe that's a broader issue to look at as well. So several years ago, the borough did an impervious cover assessment, and maybe it's time to pull that thing out again and see where there's opportunities to reduce impervious cover and look for funding to support that.
Couple of legal points to bolster what's been discussed here. First, the applicant, if you recall, I actually pressed Mr. Tykina a little bit. Are you going under a C1 analysis or a C2 analysis? And he confirmed that he was just making an argument under a C1 analysis, which was strictly with respect to the shape, topography, size, unique features of the property. And he wasn't going under a C2 analysis, although he had some arguments about it, he wasn't making a C2 argument. So those purposes of zoning, such as visual environment or multiple uses or efficient use of the land, is not what he was pressing his argument on for a variance. So your analysis should be with respect to the C1. If you think that they've met their burden of proof with respect to undue hardship, then you go to the negative criteria. And the negative criteria isn't just, is there a detriment to the public good, or is there an impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance? Because every variance is an impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. The qualifier is there a substantial detriment to the public good? And is there a substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance?
Is there a definition for substantial, or is that
There's case law.
just case? I guess.
There's no definition in the municipal land use law.
Yeah, it
That would
doesn't,
make it much
So
easier.
it's subjective.
yeah.
And
But,
that's why every case stands
It's-
on its merits.
I wouldn't say subjective,
and
it's
that's my
interpretive.
final point.
And that's different.
And that was my final point, is that you raised concerns about precedential value. Each piece of property is unique. Each situation is unique. Each application is unique. And if you granted relief here, it doesn't mean that another property owner, they may try and say, well, you granted to them, but it's not binding upon the board. Each application is weighed on its own merits, and there's no precedential binding effect on anything that you do.
I wasn't saying that we would be bound to any precedent, but I'm saying if they're all standing on their merits and they all are making a meritorious argument under current code and law, that they should be granted this relief. But in the future, we get to a point where we have a serious issue about impervious surfaces and drainage and stormwater management, then it's almost unfair to people in the future because we've made this situation possible by the decisions we've made now. I know that's kind of getting ahead of it, but I'm thinking long-term, and I think Ted was getting at that as well, is how are we going to view these applications with an eye towards the long-term management of impervious
Well, we
surfaces?
view the
I
app,
didn't
but
interrupt you there, Ted.
that's not what we do with individual applications. That's
No, I
what
know.
ordinances and zoning is for.
Yeah, so it sounds like for this,
Yes.
I feel like I have a solid answer, and for future concerns, it sounds like Darlene is saying, when we have time, we should address that.
Yeah.
We should look at it.
But I would encourage the environmental commission to pull out the old impervious cover assessment, seriously,
I'll make a note of it.
thank you.
Very substantive discussion in the middle of a motion. Do we have any further comments or questions on the motion that's before us, or any amendments to the motion that are before us? Hearing none, could I have a vote, please?
Dwyer,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Ready. Yes. Tonto,
Yes.
Branson,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Demblinger,
Yes.
Eckel.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Sapio. I will prepare up a memorializing resolution before the board's next meeting and circulate it to you for your comment.
Thank you very much for your courtesy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank
Great
you.
thoughtful discussion as well. Appreciate it.
I'm ready for.
I gather you know him.
Yeah.
Um,
Here's what he's affiliated with, no, overly covered.
could you dash up and get John from the office? Because he recused himself. I figured he was watching us on, oh, here he comes. I figured he was watching us on video, but I hadn't seen him, resurface. Oh,
How we watch it from video, from his phone?
really? Probably. I would. All right, as soon as John returns, we will move forward. He's got to shake hands on the way through, apparently.
Yeah. He's but he's.
Space me as a bathroom first. All right, give us a moment. And then we will.
But he will.
Restart. Where are we?
Get care about.
All right, well, we can move on, I think, safely to the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, could I have a vote, please?
Dwyer,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Ready. Yes. Tonto,
Yes.
Branson,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Demblinger,
Abstain.
Eckel.
Yes. Moving on to public comments. This is when members of the public that are not here regarding something on the agenda are free to speak. Seeing none, unless Mr. DeSapio wants to talk about something else, I think I will close the.
Like me to drag it out.
Good night, Mr. DeSapio. We'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. And then we're moving on to the new business. Now, we have 4 items of new business. These are ordinance 949, 950, 951, and 952. We can discuss them individually or as a group, but 3 of them have to do with, these are all ordinances that have been introduced by council. They have come before us to determine that they are not inconsistent with the master plan. Because New Jersey loves its double negatives. So I will remind everyone that the first 3 items are items that we have seen many times before. And this is the final form. This is where the court deadline, court required changes with the.
Yes, so these are the
Unfailing
effectuate
words.
ordinances, so these ordinances
Thank you.
effectuate the housing plan. They are the 3 final ordinances that are necessary to enact by the March 15th.
Thank you, because my words were just completely failing me there.
And I guess it's your professional opinion that they are not inconsistent with the master plan.
It is my professional opinion that they are not inconsistent with the master plan, and there's even a provision in the municipal land use law that talks about ordinances that effectuate a master plan element, and I will tell you that all 3 of these effectuate the housing plan element.
Does anyone have any question on those first 3 ordinances, 949, 950, and 951?
I make a motion that they're not inconsistent with the master plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Report
I'll second it.
All right, well,
that finding to the town.
Yeah. To the borough
I
council.
think Jake, we got that second in for you, Jean. Are there any further comments or questions on those three? Hearing none, could I have a vote?
Dwyer,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Redding. Yes. Tonto.
Yes.
Branson.
Yeah.
Catherine. Denver.
Yes. Moving on to ordinance 952. Now, 952 is the update to the sign ordinance that we looked at. We had a committee that was formed. We looked at it. We recommended it to council. Last month, they introduced it with no changes at their council meeting and has now come back to us to determine if it is not inconsistent with the master plan. Is it your professional opinion that it is not inconsistent with the master plan?
That is my professional opinion.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Jean. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, whoever that was. There we go, Paul.
Yeah, the member of the sign committee.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
Brad, no questions from the council?
No, they appreciated the work that went into it.
If there's no further comments or questions, if we could have a vote, please.
Dwyer,
I trust Darlene, so yes.
Dougherty,
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Redding. Yes. Tonto.
Yes.
Branson.
Yes.
Catherine.
Yes.
Denver.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a little concerned that you didn't say you trusted the sign committee as well, but that's fine. Moving on to old business. Jean, can we have an extremely brief update on the age-friendly
So
Frenchtown?
the age-friendly grant that we have from the State Department of Human Services ends in June. Our deliverable is an action plan. The committee meets tomorrow, and I think we're sort of moving towards closure on the action plan. And that will come eventually to the council to endorse. I think that's the right term, right? Okay. At its June meeting. Happily though, good news is that there were a number of early actions that the committee identified. And with the support of the council, we requested a modification of the current grant to allow for some spending to go towards those early actions. And Samantha found out today that that was approved.
Very nice.
Very exciting. So Darlene, that means there's work for you to do. So some of the.
You're welcome.
Coincidentally, with tonight's application, that will include covering some of the costs associated with the planner and the borough's attorney to look at development of an ordinance that addresses burden and cost associated with medically necessary and aging in place home renovations. So we need to have the funds encumbered by June 30th.
Sure. March 16th, we'll start it.
Yeah, so I don't know, I mean, it's gonna be a little stinky and complicated, so I don't know if you want a couple people to work with Darlene on it.
Well,
So you could think of that.
yeah, once she has a moment to think
Yeah,
on it,
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
find out if she wants it.
Yeah,
to
if
be
you
one.
want to
I
reinvigorate.
mean, so wait, all the money has to be spent by June what?
No, I think
Encumbered.
They're being encumbered. Doesn't have to be
June 30th.
spent.
June 30th.
Proposal
Oh.
to revise.
Easy peasy.
I was.
No,
No,
but we should make friends.
Oh.
You can encumber away.
Yeah.
All right.
You got it too.
Can I just follow up on that? When you say encumbered by June 30th, you need council to pass an ordinance.
Samantha says no. I
Give
did.
her
You would just need a purchase order. issued.
Purchase order.
Yeah,
and,
as long as it's underneath the bid threshold.
right, does council need to take action on it, or
Yeah.
how do you cut a PO like that?
So the CFO would cut a
Okay.
purchase order based upon Darlene sending a formal
Do we need a
financial proposal. Because she's appointed as the annual professional, we don't have to do anything special.
So do you know what you need in terms of, do we need to find a scope for her so she can submit a proposal? Just, you know.
I will write an ordinance.
No,
I will appear at the planning board.
okay,
I already gave Sam an estimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's already language in the draft action plan.
Yeah, okay, we've,
Great.
this is already in the pipeline. We have numbers and we just need to sort of put it all together.
Yeah, some of the other modification of the budget, going to some of the low hanging fruit that was identified as part of the age friendly needs assessment includes the launching of a civic newsletter, and that's pretty darn exciting, as well as the establishment of a constant contact. So those two things are connected because one of the big things that we heard is that older residents, residents in general feel like, but older residents feel like they are socially isolated, they don't have a sense of what's going on, they don't feel a sense of belonging. So, a group is working on getting those things in place as well. Are you gonna be at tomorrow's meeting? Age friendly,
I can be.
okay.
I think.
You've only had 10,000 emails from me. And then, on a smaller front, Chris will be launching a thing called an Operation Blue Angel, which is a really cool program that other towns have in place. And this cost was very small, but it allows the police department to enter into an agreement with, residents who, are older and, probably have less assets, to allow to have a lockbox put on their home. So in the case of emergencies and other emergent situations, the police would have an agreement where they have access to the home. I think that was everything in terms of the modification of the budget. Does that sound right? I think so, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll be applying for some other funds for some of the other, less urgent items. So,
I do have a question regarding the meeting tomorrow. Are you serving lunch?
of course, serving lunch.
There.
There's always lunch at my meetings.
I love it, yes.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Is that are there any other questions?
No, but there's big lunch and there'll be blondies.
I heard that, council president and I are, our graphic design, you weren't too crazy about.
You ratted me out.
I worked hard on chat.
I wasn't gonna
tell you that.
all this. I was the man in the middle.
Oh, and then, the mayor's hosting a mayor's town hall on this topic this
Got
coming
it.
Saturday at the Legion.
Well, now I'm
Um,
not coming.
From 10 to 12. There'll be food at that as well.
Oh, my goodness.
And Brad and Michelle thought that that'd be a great place to do it because it's very accessible, but also to allow residents to see the newly renovated Legion. So, I'm sorry, yes, a
That's
big
great.
renovation, yes, and accessible. So, so we had a really great turnout at the first one last October, so we're expecting a good turnout at this one as well. So, this will all wrap up in June. And then you'll never hear from me again.
Thank you. I don't know that we need an affordable housing update at the moment, do we? But
We're
it's-
gonna meet the deadline.
We're gonna meet the deadline, okay, unlike many municipalities.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh,
Can I
Saturday.
just ask a follow-up question on that?
sure.
We've taken this action tonight on the compliance with master plan. Does council need to take additional action or?
I want laundry for you guys for next week.
Great.
Sam and I are in contact.
Okay, so we've got work to do on that. Okay, very
One
good,
final push.
very good. Thank you.
very good, moving on then to, get toward the end, the vouchers. We have vouchers, is there a motion?
I'll move
to-
them.
Thank you, Gene, is there a second?
My second.
Oh, well, let's call that Ted John.
That's good.
If there are any questions about the vouchers? Hearing none, could I vote?
I'm sorry, I have a question. Do I need to abstain?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good question.
Thank you.
Well, you don't have to go anywhere because we're voting on
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm not.
Could we have a vote, please?
Dwyer,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Abstain.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Redding,
Yes.
Bamba.
Yes.
Branson.
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Stenbacher.
Yes.
Ethel.
Yes.
Just vote no.
Missed your opportunity.
Correspondence, council reports and other related items. Let's start with the mayor. What do we got, Ray?
So really good news, thanks to the work of myself, working with Chris and Sam, we have. Just have to get in writing, but every homeowner now.
Nicely done.
So that will.
I missed what every homeowner has and then everyone plot.
Oh, they have signed the access agreement so we can move forward, with safe routes to school. Well, I don't know if it came in yet, the last one.
No,
It could, I was told it's gonna get signed,
the second
so,
to last one did. The
yeah,
last one.
but I did get commitment today on the last property owner.
That is-
So
Well
we'll
done,
be
well
able to
done.
move forward with safe routes to school program.
Well done, everyone.
It'll also open the floodgates so we can do the 7th Street through
Yeah.
12th Street resurfacing. Because all those landings had to be brought up to code and the DOT was not gonna approve that, the paving until that was done. And it will also enable us to move forward with TAP, because once we execute safe routes, then we can work on the downtown.
Yeah.
So It took 15 months, but we got it. right.
This has been a bit of a log jam.
Years, didn't it?
Well, the whole project's all ten,
It's
but
been a long
since
jam,
we
but
got to the point of asking homeowner, it's been.
but it's moving forward and this
Yeah,
is
so that-
very good.
So that happened. And then next month, we're anticipating that the Lot Street, River Road and South Washington Street, they're gonna break grounds on that project. Provided this weather gets a little better,
Right,
so,
very good.
To God's ears.
yeah.
Anything else?
That's.
Always good for good news. Council report.
We want to say thank you to DPW and our other town employees for working on the snow removal this week.
Yes.
And also, that council is starting to work with the school on 100th anniversary celebration. Frenchtown High School,
Yeah.
opened in 1926,
Very
which
cool,
was a big change, from what had been going on before.
very cool. That's gonna be very exciting. Looking forward to that. Environmental Commission, we got anything?
I think Tom Woodruff is no longer going to be our head of the Environmental Commission.
Okay.
He has officially resigned, yes.
I don't know what the next steps are there, but that'll be significant.
At the next meeting, the council is gonna have for their consideration a new chair for appointment and a new member.
Okay.
I understand,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
Interested to see how that goes. That feels like the significant thing.
I don't think I have anything. So if there's nothing else, we
I'll
will
move to adjourn.
entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.